Is it Spock's Club, which shows which officer is good for away missions? No, that would be the Officer Tool, the STFC Officer Tool, which our dear friend Lube is pretty heavily involved with, and Stewie Doo and those guys. If you don't already have it, that would be on their Discord, which is located there. You can find yourself and go ahead and join that Discord channel. I know, one more Discord channel, but there's like 8 to 10 that are actually productive and useful. And then in there you can get the most recent version of the Officer Tool. And then that'll show you, there you go, tutorial videos and instructions on how to use it. And then the most recent version of the tool, the Excel spreadsheet, is all there and able to be downloaded as well. And then you can start plugging in all your officers and figuring out who's good for what and all that fun stuff. And for the rest of you watching, if you're not already haven't checked it out, it's a fun tool. I played around with it when one of the original versions or one of the early versions came out over a year ago. I feel like that was like last summer or spring of like 2021 maybe. That would have been when they added away teams, right? It was somewhere around there with the Next Generation crew or Discovery crew, whenever they added away teams. I know I played around with it for a video for a bit, kind of just going through different scenarios. And it really is very helpful. It really lets you see just where some of the keyword stats overlap on multiple missions. And then you can start to figure out what officers are good for having those stats and also are valuable for later ones too. So it's not like you're just dumping a bunch of points into, a scientist just because. It's like, oh, I'm putting these points into scientists. Let me put them into Spock because he's a scientist. And it's like, oh yeah, I'll use him for this. But then you start thinking, well, maybe I need Spock on ships for a little while, doing other stuff. Eventually he fades out and you don't need him as much anymore. But then you're like, all right, I've invested and I've got Spock for scientist. But I just spent, 40 or 50,000 trait XP on him. And now there's nowhere left for him to go. Then you look at someone like Carol, who also has scientist, who's epic. And from there, you also have a place to go with her. And you get focused or you get physicist with her, which gives her a further boost. And now suddenly the same officer is now hitting 2 or 3 keyword characteristics. Hey, we did hit maxed. Awesome. 2 or 3 characteristics on some of these away team missions because of the way they overlap. Yeah, Carol's great. LaForge also now is kind of getting engineer and physicist. And you'd be surprised, engineer, very common, physicist starting to overlap on a few more missions. And now it gives you sort of a second threat where if Carol is on, would you just die already? If Carol's on a mission like... Oh, hey, that one's done. Yeah, I don't have an example right here. Usually the one that gives Fed credits, right? The research and development ones, which is like the Imperial strategy version for that. Hey, there's a crit for 1,500 Romulan credits. Okay. And another lead expedition popped. We'll have to wait for that one. Yeah, but you might get something like that. Nope, that's all battle-oriented. For my second Pilum. So when I'm building my second one so I can tear it up and scrap it, there's my extra blueprints right there. And then just in case I want to get really crazy, and I'll go for my Newton as well. So, but yeah, but see, there's Geordie doubling up on engineer and physicist, which isn't bad either. The forge is a must to get data shards. Yep. Yeah, he's very helpful for that. Both MUDs also have good keywords, I think, that help with the data missions. One is the shitty mission and one is the good mission. But I feel like each version of MUD is beneficial for one of those missions. Yeah, Gorkon's good for source and Klingon credits. Charvanek you just saw, I hit the critical on because she has 3 of the 4 stats for the Romulan credit mission. So there's quite a few. Burnham is picking up value with her abilities as well. She's got Genius here. Resourceful comes into play a little bit. There's a handful of officers with Resourceful. Not as many with Genius, which comes into some of those missions. I believe that one of the data missions also requires Genius. So that comes in a little bit. And then you get to this Impulsive stat out here in the captain's level. She has it. Kirk has it. Both Kirks have it. And I think Beckett Mariner has it as well. And there's only very few officers that have that Impulsive stat. But it does come into play with something like Lead Expedition here. Trying to pick up extra away team credits. There's a couple other missions that I can't think of at the top of my head that Impulsive is also notable in. Wesley has Genius. Wesley has no use in the game, so might as well use him for something, right? Yeah. Without planning, you really waste trait XP. Absolutely. And especially when you start to factor in what some of that trait XP ends up costing. See if I still have the chart. Yeah. Pull up the one for trait XP. It's a little small. Let's try and zoom in. So, finishing that first common trait, 8,000 officer XP. Not all that bad. Even getting the second one, you're on the hook for about 37,500. Not terrible. If you get 1,000 a day, it's about a month. Plus, you get some other from the battle pass, or if you happen to buy any in the event store. About a month or so, you can max out a rare officer or an epic officer's first 2 traits. You can get through in a little over a month. It's here where you then run into the brick wall. That first one at 10,000 is a bitch to unlock. Afterwards, you get a little bit of a reprieve, and you get 2 and 3 pretty quickly for 11,000. But then you get to some of these last couple, and these are just ridiculous. Like 323,000 is what you need to max out one total officer, which at 1,000 a day is basically 1 a year. So if you're not getting trade XP somewhere else, you're basically doing 1 epic officer from start to finish over the course of a year. Which is pretty terrible. But these last 3 milestones are the bulk of it. These are over 200,000. What's that, 210? 227 is right here. 100, 110, 210, 217. So 217,000 is just these final 3 milestones. And if you start to think, how much of a percentage is that really adding to each of these? A couple of percent, couple of percent, couple percent. Maybe it pushes it. They have a max. They're not going to let you max in a thing out at like 100% crit chance. So maybe you move it from 60 to 70 or 75%. Make it more likely it's going to happen. But how long did these last 3 traits take you? And more importantly, instead of investing in this for 200K, is there, you get one officer like Charvanek who has all 3 stats for a mission. Instead of spending it all to max her out with these last 3 traits, what's that 4th trait on that mission? Is it another officer that you can hit this with? Is it another one of these that you can, instead of spending 200,000 on this, you can get that officer's first 2 and get them to like tier 4 or tier 5, where they're probably adding more for the first 5 tiers of this than they are for these last couple tiers of the epic. The rare ones will get to 100%. Okay, the rainbow ones, the epic ones. You mean, yeah. So you're saying these rainbow ones, you can get a crit chance all the way to 100% if you had all 4 traits maxed out, or to wherever they need it to be. Okay. All levels are linear increase, so a level of tier 1 trait increases the crit chance the same percentage as a level of a tier 3 trait. Do I still have that up? Did I put it? I put it away. So basically you're saying if I learned level 3 of this skill for 3,800, or I could learn level 3 of this skill for 7,000 for a different officer, they're both adding the same percentage to the crit chance of the away team mission, whatever it is, 2%, 3%, whatever it is. It's across these different tiers. So okay, so these ones down here are going to add more to the overall percentage, but relatively speaking, how much more are you really, how big of a difference is this? It seems like a Scopely trick, these last 3 down here. Like, people are going to have that need to want to say they've maxed an officer out, so they would buy a lot of trade XP to do this. This is probably more than a pack. This is probably $100 just for this level. $100. Getting these 2 levels here is probably like a $300 investment into away team XP. Actually, I think that pack is in the store right now. Syndicate XP is there. The Trait XP pack was in here over the weekend. I don't know if it's still up or not. Doesn't look like it. Looks like they took it down. Oh, I have a legacy material pack now. Ooh. I can get some 3-star for $100. No, thank you. I wish I could, like, hide some of this stuff. This is the only one that I'm ever tempted to buy. Just because it's so hard to get these stupid tactical cores to upgrade your Armada Control Center. And there's actually a benefit to upgrading your Armada Control Center. Alright, would you just die already? I don't want to fly back because I don't want to get popped on the way into my base and have someone steal all my venom. Thank you. The level of the trait is not relevant. Tier 1 trait level 1 is the same increase as a Tier 3 trait level 9. So it definitely is a trick, is what you're saying. So, yeah, whatever it is, the going up to 3% or 4% per level increase is just the same throughout the whole thing. So those last 3 levels might only be worth like 10 or 12% because that's just what... Okay, so yes, they really are a ripoff. If you go up 10% chance, but could get stats making up more than 10% per pull, then stats become more important. Yeah, depending on what the top level stuff is, for sure. Just taking the extra stats and getting the bigger boost there might have a better payout. So, well, thanks, Bella. And, I've learned a few things along the way, thanks to the guys at the STFC Officer Tool for putting some of that stuff together. And, you know, happy to pass that information along and share it where I can. And then obviously having Lube right here live in the channel to have a discussion with and provide some further insight because he's got more of the, behind the scenes programming knowledge about how that is, so those guys can make their tool. Um, it comes in handy.